Hello, this is a data overview over Creekview High School. My name is Ansley Schumacher and I will be your presenter today. So our agenda for today, first we will look at our overview and our school mission and purpose. Then we will look at our school's demographic makeup, both students and teachers, our CCRPI data. And then we will be diving into the Creekview High School mathematics milestone data, and we will look at both Algebra 1 and geometry over those 3 school years. We'll analyze this 3-year difference, have a discussion of patterns and growth, and then a summary on where to go from here. As an overview, this presentation will be shown to school administration, Algebra 1, and geometry teachers with the intention of looking at mathematics milestone scores from Creekview High School. So our school mission statement encourages excellence and prepares all students to be successful global participants. The goal of Creekview High School is for teachers to utilize instructional strategies that through research are proven effective in the classroom and for the administration to monitor the usage of these instructional strategies. That is why I have included the groupings here today so we can see what we need to do to continue to prepare students to be successful global participants. So today's purpose, we are going to analyze and discuss the trends in the mathematics milestone scores for Algebra 1 and geometry to evaluate this trend and potential next steps as we work towards student success. So to begin, we're going to look at our school demographic data on the student side. As you can see, this encompasses the past 3 years of school data. On the school race and ethnicity side, you can see that we are primarily white dominant throughout the past few years, with no Native American or Alaskan students. We do have a small percentage of Hispanic students, and an even smaller percentage of Black, Asian, and multiracial students. Looking over at other areas of percentage, you can see even though we do have around 8% Hispanic students, just about 1% of them have the limited English proficient and qualify for English language learner accommodations. We have less than 20% of our school population are eligible for free and reduced meals, and less than 20%, closer to the 10% mark, are students with disabilities. We are almost split 50-50 when it comes to male and female ratios. On the teacher side, you can see we're going to have a few breakdowns of our certificate level. The vast majority of our students, within looking at our pie chart, 42% of our teachers have a master's certificate level, with the next highest percentage of 33% being a bachelor's. We do have 4% pursuing and have accomplished that doctoral certificate level. Within our race and ethnicity, our teacher race and ethnicity is very similar to our student race and ethnicity breakdown. 95% of our teachers are white, with 2% Hispanic and Asian and 1% Native American. And further going on with our school demographics, we do have a female dominant teacher population, with 62% of our teachers being female. And then our years of experience, we do have a vast array of years of experience from less than 1%, less than 1 year, and greater than 30 years. The highest percentage being 35%, we are ranging between 1 and 10 years of experience on the younger trend. And then we do have 31% being in the 11 to 20 years. So a lot of our teachers are in the younger years, but they can constantly bring in new information and new perspectives as our colleges and schools of education implement new teaching procedures and new instructional strategies. Going into a little bit of our school data, these are CCRPI single score data points for the past 3 years, and we can compare those also to Georgia and to Cherokee County, our school system. As you can see, for all 3 of these years, Creekview High School did rank higher than both Georgia and Cherokee County on the CCRPI level, and we have been fairly consistent over those 3 years with our score data. Now, if we want to dive a little bit deeper into this data, we can look closer at our 2019 scores. This is the most recent scores that are available at the moment. So if you're looking at our 2019 scores, you can see our content mastery and our graduation rate are at that A level at 91.6 and 95. 95 graduation rate is quite impressive. Our progress is not far behind at that 89%, and our readiness is at a solid mid-level B at 85%. Where we are lower and where we can see hopefully a little bit more growth to get that CCRPI score into the A range is our closing gaps. We are at 77.8. And this is going to be where we need to focus on our students who are coming in from the middle school and progressing through high school, who are getting behind in classes or not showing the growth necessary. It's not necessarily achievement levels, but showing growth in their abilities through our milestone scores, AP scores, and so on. So now this is where we are going to really start to look at our data for our math milestones over the last 3 consecutive years. Due to there not being any data for the 2019-2020 school year due to the COVID-19 pandemic, our years will start at the 2016-2017 school year and be those 3 school years after that. So as you can see on the left, we have the Algebra 1 EOC assessment. The dark blue is our state, the gray is the system, so Cherokee County, and the light blue is our school for Creekview. Up at the top, you can also see the number of students per system there, and that will be consistent throughout the rest of these graphs. Now, in comparison, you can see our school, we waver in our comparison with everybody, and that can be the same on the geometry side on the right. But whenever you compare these two, you can see for this school year, our geometry side had a significant higher number of proficient and distinguished learners than the rest of the state and the school system, and a lower number of beginning and developing learners, which is exciting to see for this school year. And you can see some similar trends. More so, you're seeing more of these Algebra 1 students being in developing and proficient this year for the milestones. Now, if we go to the next school year, the data's charts are very similar as to the year prior. In the geometry section, you can see that in the proficient learner, we have the highest percentage. And in both the developing and the beginner, we have the lowest percentage there, which means we are having more students within those higher achieving areas. Our Algebra 1 scores are starting to get a little bit closer in range on that distinguished learner. So there has been growth from the year prior to the 2017-2018 school year. Now, in our final year, again, you don't see too much shift in data. But what you do see here is that the range on the geometry side is not quite as drastic in comparison. So our school data is not as far above the school system or state. It's starting to level out with what our system is. And that can also be seen at the developing level. Still much lower percentage of beginning learner students at the school level than the state, which is exciting to see, as that means more of our students are in a higher mastery level. And that same pattern, very similar, can be seen on the Algebra 1 side. with the smallest percentage having that beginning learner, and by a vast amount, a large percentage of those students being in the proficient learners for the Algebra 1 for this third school year that we are analyzing here. So if we look at the spread, this 3-year difference in the Algebra 1 and the Geometry EOCs, this is comparing the percentage at each of the 4 levels from the 3rd year and the 1st year. It is a difference to see how the growth would be. So it's the 3rd year percentage subtracted the 1st year percentage. Analyzing this, what you would want to see is you would want to see a negative percentage change on the beginning and developing learner, as that would mean that you have less students who are within that range, and you would want to see a positive change in the proficient and distinguished learners as more students are entering into that level. That would show that growth in transition of students exiting the beginning and developing and going over to the proficient and distinguished. You do see that in the Algebra 1 scores. Unfortunately, that is not what we see on the geometry side. So as we discuss these milestone patterns, as I said, there's a decrease in the percentages for beginning and developing and an increase for proficient and distinguished in the Algebra 1 scores. There is a significant difference in this decrease and increase for our school level than the state and system. That shows a large increase in mathematical understanding and mastery for those Algebra 1 students. Unfortunately, these percentages are much more sporadic at the geometry level, and there's a drastic increase for our school for beginning and developing in geometry, and a drastic drop for proficient and distinguished learners. That means that students are coming from Algebra 1 with some math mastery and going into geometry, and they are not showing that same level of mastery and that same level of understanding within that second math course. So this is where our focus would want to be. We want to look at these geometry scores and see where do we go from here. So what I would like us to do as a group, if we were giving this presentation, I want us to find learner-centered problems. So as we are sitting together as administration and as our Geometry and Algebra 1 PLCs, I would like for each person to use the sticky note and go ahead and list reasons why students may be struggling more in geometry than algebra. And then we're going to go through, we're going to organize these into categories, and then we're going to think of an overarching learner problem for each category. We want to discuss the why and try and determine why this learner-centered problem exists and what do we need to do at that point. To summarize, before we break out into these groups, our student mathematical mastery is decreasing in the geometry class and is increasing in our Algebra 1 classes. To do this, we need to work on these learner-centered problems that we are going to discuss and work through and mold our classes to ensure that our students are growing in their mathematical mastery throughout high school years and not dropping off after that first year.